Hey, 5th grade, how's it going? Happy Tuesday, August 4th, 2020. Today, what we're going to be doing is reviewing a little bit on common denominators, continuing to subtract fractions, and we're going to look at a diagnostic quiz on quizzes just to understand this concept a little bit more. So, let's get started. As you remember from last time, what we were doing, boys and girls, is we were understanding how to subtract fractions by coming up with the same denominator, okay? When we looked at these problems, 10 and 6 are not the same denominator, right? So we would have to multiply both numbers by some random number, almost, to get the same denominator, right? But that's sometimes kind of confusing. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a little game, okay? I would like you to take a look at the questions that we have here on the screen, okay? And the first question says, what is the least common denominator of 1/2 and 3/7? Well, if we continue just to talk about, halves and sevenths, and we list out all the factors of 2, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and then if we continue to do the same thing for 7, 7, 14, 21, the common denominator that both of them have is 14, right? Let's do the next problem. 1/9 and 2/3. If we do the factors of 9, we have 9, 18, 27, 36. But if we have 3, we go 3, 6, 9. We don't need to continue anymore because both 3 and 9 have 9 as their common denominator. Let's do one more problem. 2/4 and 4/7. List out the factors of 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. And 7, 7, 14, 21, 28. Okay, so both of those have 28 as their common denominator. All right, so we're going to use that as our denominator if we want to add them or subtract those fractions. Try to do this one on your own without my help. All right, if you listed out the factors, we have 6, 12, 18, 24, and 8, 16, 24. So 24 should have been your common denominator, okay? Boys and girls, I think it's important that we understand these common denominators so that we can understand mixed fractions, improper fractions. Either one of those is going to give us the understanding of that concept, right? And with those types of fractions, we need to know that improper fractions are similar to mixed numbers because they just look a little bit different, right? But they both have the same common denominator. For example, mixed numbers might tell you how many pizzas to buy, but improper fractions might tell you how many people can eat those pizzas, right? It's the same exact fraction, but it just looks a little bit different, okay? We saw those types of problems when we were looking at adding fractions. For example, when we looked at this example right here on the screen from last time, we had to make 1 1/10 into an improper fraction, right? 11/10. And then when we converted both problems into the same denominator, right? 11/10 minus 6/10, we could just go ahead and subtract that like normally, 5/10. Of course, at the end we had to simplify, but you kind of get the idea, right? So let's actually look at a couple of the problems from the page 57, okay? I think it's important that we continue to work on the book, and then we'll go to the quizzes, okay? So go to page 57. We're going to go to the first problem, which is problem letter A, okay? 1/2 minus 1/5. Now you'll notice that when we try to subtract these, we don't have the same denominator. So what are we going to do to get the same common denominator? Well, what we can do is list out the factors, just like last time. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then also for 5, right? 5, 10. So 10 is going to be our common denominator for both of our fractions. 5 times 2 is 10, and 2 times 5 is 10. All right, since I know what to multiply on both sides, I can just multiply 1 times 5, which gives me 5, and 5 times 2, which gives me 10. So now we can just subtract like normal. 5 minus 2 equals 3. And 10 is my denominator. We don't need to simplify this anymore, so our final answer is 3/10. Let's do letter B. 12 and 8. What's a common denominator for 12ths and 8ths? Well, list out your factors. 12, 24, 36, and 8, 16, 24, 36, 32. The common denominator that both of them have is 24. So 24 is going to be our common denominator in this case. 12 is going to change to 24, and 8 is going to change to 24. We did that by multiplying 12 by 2, and 8 by, that was 24. 8 by what number equals 24? 3. So we're going to multiply our numerators by the same numbers as our denominators. 7 times 2 and 3 times 3. 7 times 2 is 14, and 3 times 3 is 9. And now we can just subtract like normal. 14 minus 9 equals 5. So your final answer is 5/24. Now you might ask, do we need to simplify this fraction? Well, we really can't multiply both numbers by 5, or 4, or 3, or even 2. So 5/24 is our final answer. Check your problems to make sure that you did them correctly. Let's go on to letter C. Letter C says 3/4 minus 3/10. Try to see if you can figure out the common denominator with both of those fractions, and we'll come back and see if you did it correctly. All right, what was the common denominator that you came up with in both fractions? Well, if you came up with 20, you got it correct. I know that if we list out the factors of 4 and 10, each one has 20 as its least common denominator. 4 times 5 equals 20, and 10 times 2 equals 20. So let's multiply our numerators by the same number. 3 times 5 is 15, and 3 times 2 gives us 6. Let's subtract. 15 minus 6 equals 9. So 9/20 is your final answer. Remember, our denominators always stay the same. And we don't need to simplify this because neither number, 9 nor 20, can be easily divisible by 2, 3, 4, 5 to be able to simplify the fraction. 9 can be divisible by 3, but 20 can't. And 20 can be divisible by 2, but 9 can't. So 9/20 is your final answer. Let's do that last problem on the page. 9/10 minus 3/4. What would be our common denominator? Well, it's the same as the previous problem. 10 and 4 is the same as 4 and 10. So 20, again, is our common denominator. Multiply 10 by 2 to get 20, so 9 times 2 equals 18. Multiply 4 by 5, so 3 times 5 equals 15. Are we adding or subtracting? We're subtracting. So 18 minus 15 equals 3. Your final answer is 3/20. Check your answers to make sure that you did them correctly. All right, what we're going to do, boys and girls, is I'm just going to show you just a couple of the problems from the quizzes that we did. Okay, these problems are not too difficult as long as you understand the concept of finding a common denominator, right? So let's take a look at a couple of these problems. Last time, what we were able to do is understand finding common denominators and then also adding or subtracting fractions. So for this first problem, 3 plus 4/9 equals 7/9. Nice job, Jimena. Hector did really well on this one. 3/5 plus 1/4 equals 17/20. Hector knows that he needs to multiply 5 times 4 and 3 times 4 to get 12/20 plus 1/4 would change to 5/20. So 12 plus 5 equals 7/20. Let's do this next problem together. 1/3 and 3/4. What would be the common denominator for both of them? Well, listing out the factors, 3, 6, 9, 12, or 4, 8, 12, you find that 12 is the common denominator for both 1/3 and 3/4. What about this problem? 6/7 and 1/2. Well, 7 and 2 both have a common denominator of 14, because 7 times 2 is 14 and 2 times 7 is 14. Nice job, Ariana and Hector. What about this problem? What's the least common denominator that you could use to subtract 1/6 and 1/4? It's 12. Nice job, Jinjin, Jinku, and Hector. Here's a couple more problems from the quizzes. We're actually going to do this one right here together, okay? So the problem says 6/7 minus 4/5. So what would we do to try to solve that problem? Well, we're going to try to find the common denominator between 6/7 and 4/5. If I multiply 7 times 5 and 5 times 7, we're going to come up with 35 as our common denominator. 6 times 5 is 30, and 4 times 7 equals 28. So all that's left to do is subtract 30 minus 28 equals 2. And our denominator is 35. So 2/35 is our answer. All right. So these are very much multi-step problems. And if you don't quite understand these problems, boys and girls, it would be a really good idea to look back on the previous videos that we've done, okay? Next time, what we're going to be doing is working more with subtracting those fractions, especially with mixed numbers, and we're going to take a look at where we use fractions in our real lives, okay? So we will see you on Friday.